Gopi Janabalabha Girivaradhari Gopi Janabalabha Girivaradhari Paramahamsa Parivajapacharya Ashtadhara Sarishta A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki Nanta Kota Vaishnavinda ki Namacharya Shahadas Thakur ki Prem Sikho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaur Bhaktivinda ki Shri Sri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana ki Shri Vrindavan Dham ki Shri Mayapur Dham ki, Ganga Maya ki, Yamuna Maya ki, Tulsi Deva ki, Bhakti Deva ki, Samaveta Bhaktivinda ki, Lord Chaitanya's Harinam Sankirtan ki, Gaur Premanandi, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled, all glories to Shri Guru and Sri Gauranga, all glories to Sri Prabhupada, Namo Vishnu Vidai, Krishna Prastaya Bhutale, Sri Mate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Vicharine, Nirvasesha Sanyavari, Pastachardesha Tarine. Are you going to put it online? Is that the idea or not?
The phone that records online is broken, but I can do live and then we can post it.
It's online.
Hmm?
Yeah, it is online.
Yeah, on live.
What does that mean? Streaming or what?
Yes,
Yes.
streaming.
Will there be anyone there online who speaks French? Pardon?
Go put on the watches usually.
Is she online?
Usually she's.
She is, okay. Because if there's somebody who speaks French online, otherwise there's no need to translate.
She's usually.
Pardon?
She's usually online.
Is she? Is there any way of checking? I don't know. Sometimes
There
there
are
is.
many devotees who don't understand French, who don't understand English.
I know, but they're not here.
But online they watch.
Only one has been mentioned so far. Induleka's online?
No, generally she watches online.
Okay. Well, it's nice if we can know who's online sometimes. Can we put this up a little bit? I can't read it like this. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. I believe we're reading from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 3, text 22. If anyone knows for sure, please let us know. 10.3.22. That's the markers on 10.3.22. Does that sound good? And if no one seems to have any comment, we'll do this first. I'm just going to read it through. It doesn't appear to be on the board. Ayam tasabhyas tava janmano grihe shrudvagajangste nyavadit sureshvara satevataram purushai samarpitang shrudvadunai vabisarat yudayuda. Word for word. Now somebody has... are we going to translate it? Is that the idea?
I'm going to translate it back and just record that line.
Is it? Okay. So no need to have a translation simultaneous. Like you'll do it simultaneous, huh?
Yeah.
Okay then.
Is that okay?
That's fine with me if it's okay with you. Yeah, that's brilliant. Thank you so much. That will, I mean, time is whatever, but it does mean there's a little more time to speak, you could say. I'll go straight into the translation. Or maybe word for word. Okay, we'll do the word for word. I am this rascal. This is me speaking. Two. But a sabyaha, who is not civilized at all. This is a really good self-description here, isn't it? Asura means uncivilized. And Sura means civilized. Tava, of your lordship. Janma, the birth. Now, our. Grihe, into the home. Shutva, after hearing. Agrajante, all the brothers born before you. Nyavadit, killed. Sura Ishvara, O Lord of the Suras, the civilized persons. Saha, he, that uncivilized Kamsa. Te, your. Avataram, appearance. Purushai, by his lieutenants. Samarpitam, being informed of. Shutva, after hearing. Aduna, now. Eva, indeed. Abhisarati, will come immediately. Udayudaha, with raised weapons. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. It's 10th canto, chapter 3, text 22. And Chitralila is translating online at the back, directly. So I'll just speak in English. Try to. O my Lord, Lord of the demigods, after hearing the prophecy that you would take birth in our home and kill him, this uncivilized Kamsa killed so many of your elder brothers, as soon as he hears from his lieutenants that you have appeared, he will immediately come with weapons to kill you. Before we go on, just a quick question. Do you know what lieutenants are? Does everybody know what a lieutenant is?
Lieutenant?
Lieutenant?
Yeah.
I know you do, but do you know? Do you know? Do you know? You know? Most of us do not know what is a lieutenant. Lieutenant. The word in the verse is lieutenant. He hears from his lieutenants. It's probably a French word. How do you pronounce it? Vietnam? Vietnam. Sounds like Vietnam for a stupid person like me. So say it loud and clear in French.
Lieutenant.
What does that mean?
It's like in the army.
Army, okay, it is the right word, and sometimes English change the meaning. So it's a French word. It really looks like one because it certainly doesn't sound like lieutenant in English. Lieutenant.
Voilà.
Really? It didn't sound like what he says. He said like Vietnam when he said it. So there you go. Any other words we don't understand here? I don't think so. So who's speaking? Vasudeva. Vasudeva. Krishna's appeared in the prison of... You can't hear? Be loud. Krishna's appeared in the prison of Kamsa. I think too loud for some devotees. I'm going to push it down again. I don't like whispering. Want me to whisper, do you? I much prefer to speak without it, but never mind. So Krishna's appeared in the prison cell of Kamsa's palace. You okay there? And Vasudeva is very worried. His son, although he's the supreme personality of Godhead, naturally a parent, is very concerned for their child. Purport. Kamsa is here being described as a sabya, which means uncivilized or most heinous. Do you know what heinous means?
No.
Is that a French word also?
Heinous.
Heinous.
From hate? In.
It means very sinful, very cruel, very sinful, very ill-behaved, very nasty, that sort of thing.
Full of hate.
Full of hate, like that, heinous. So, yeah. Why? Because he killed the many children of his sister. Of course, this is a topic which is pretty much in the public ear. It's in the public, at least it's on the media a lot. It's come to the attention one angle of this, which apparently, innocent children are victims of some clash which is going on. Of course, as we are aware, at least if we came to class 2 days ago, we're aware that at every moment there's an abortion going on this planet. Known abortions are 50,000 a day. Known. That's quite a lot.
50,000 per day?
Per day. Known. That's the ones that are known. The ones that are not known, who knows? Krishna knows. And the material energy is reacting accordingly. people think that, oh, innocence, but one primary understanding, which is hard for people to grasp, is a big problem. And it's a big problem in, let's say, solving the problem, because unless we understand we are eternal, unless we understand we're not this body, unless we understand that we're getting the results of our past activity, it's very hard to justify or understand really or solve any of the problems of the world. Very difficult. Everything's based upon some temporary relative perspective. Different people would judge it differently, but basically that's what it is. In many religions, they say this is your first existence. You didn't exist before this lifetime. Atheists, of course, absolutely have that philosophy. And that's a large percentage of the world's population. And the other religious groups are another large, probably more, most of the world believes that probably. So what's going on here? What's going on? In this particular incident, the killing of the previous brothers of Krishna was another reason. That's a long history, which even involves Hiranyakashipu and Lord Brahma and so on, but that's a story told elsewhere. But in general, when a child is suffering, this is very painful to hear. And it's not that we leave it at that, by the way. But the understanding is that everyone is getting the results of their karma, no matter how old you are. Now that's not a justification, therefore, so predestination, it's all meaningless and so on. No, it's not. But still, it's a fact. Somebody maybe does something criminal in society and they get punished, but that's not the end of the story, is it? You try to reform them, don't you? Isn't that the idea of a prison? Even Krishna is born in a prison. Obviously, he needed reforming, right? Was he getting punished? Krishna was born in a prison. Interesting karma, because he has no karma. But in general, we're all born in a prison, into this womb. Can you imagine a more hellish situation than a womb?
It's described in the Srimad Bhagavatam.
It's described in Srimad Bhagavatam. It's a horrible thought to be packed up in a womb with no knowledge of what's outside. Are you going to stay there forever? It's horrible. It's not just staying in an enclosed space. It's a horrible enclosed space. And it's completely dark. Not a glimmer of light. It's almost unimaginable. You can read about it in the Bhagavatam if you want a graphic, vivid description of what it more or less is like. But it's not very pleasant. It's also karma. But it has other aspects to it. And that is, especially in human life, it's meant that we start to wake up a little bit and not blaming others all the time. Our tendency is to blame others. All the time we do this. Whether even as devotees we tend to do this, or whatever we are. Material world we can understand, it's kind of quite normal. Some people try to take responsibility for their situation, at least up to a certain point. They're a little bit more evolved in consciousness. But generally we blame others. Most of the world's problems are related to this. We're experiencing this right now in maybe false propaganda. Who knows what's going on where, but blaming others, therefore I justify my activity. There is room for this in the Shastras, but it's a very fine line. When one's not following Shastras, it becomes a rather, or misfollowing the scriptures, it becomes a very dangerous situation. So Kamsa, out of fear in his case, having received the prophecy that the 8th child of your sister, it will kill you, he became really angry and terrified, and his whole life was to try to prevent that from happening. Of course, it happened eventually. But anyway, here Vasudeva is very concerned about this prediction that this Kamsa is very uncivilized. Well, talk about uncivilized. I mean, of course, he was very uncivilized. But where is the civilized person today? In terms of, Vedic definition of civilized person, where are they?
The one who Krishna conscious?
They should be. Well, they would be if they're actually Krishna conscious. But in general, where do we find actual civilized persons?
India, one.
The term is usually used Aryan, one who is following the Vedic standards. But you rarely find, and not to say there aren't, but it's very rare, very rare. And, intoxications and illicit sex and meat eating, gambling and lying and cheating and on and on and on, and really not understanding the purpose of life. For most people, the purpose of life is sense gratification, isn't it?
Yes.
I think. With my sense gratification. We judge the world according to how it affects my sense gratification. If something doesn't look nice, we don't like it. Someone else may like it, but we don't. If someone does something to us, disturbing us, we get upset. It's disturbing. A civilized person may also get upset, but only on the basis of this is disturbing Krishna's desire. This is against Krishna's will. And they may act accordingly. So in this situation also, which we see, the devotees, is not the devotee is callous. You know this word callous?
No.
Indifferent.
In French?
Indifferent.
Indifferent is a good word to describe it. Indifferent. You don't care, you're kind of, so what, your problem, not mine. That type of thing. Well, the devotee doesn't think like that. Prabhupada didn't think like that. Although the philosophy is there and it's obvious a person is getting a reaction from their past life. You could go on and on with logical arguments to, let's say, debunk might be the word, the idea that this is your first life. In terms of why am I born here, why are you born there, why am I in this position, why am I in this religion or whatever, or non-religion, why am I suffering and you're not? People may ask that question, I'm sure they do, and there's not very often a very responsible answer. The answer is there, as simple as that. We're continuing, just like when you wake up in the morning, you more or less, you pick up where you left off the day before, isn't it? You don't you're not like a firstborn baby when you wake up maybe we are initially, but after a few moments you kind of wake up, right? Maybe you do start crying. I want to go back to sleep again, it's too cold around here. But generally speaking, we understand it's just a break between yesterday and today to revive and get back into business, right? You're the same person, more or less. And similarly with karma, it's like, you die, you have time in the womb or whatever else it may be. And then you're born again, and you with not the same body. This is where the problem comes. People think they're the body, so it becomes a problem. Because you're obviously not the same body. That's not usually very difficult to understand. But the subtle body, although it may have a different, let's say, seems somewhat different because you're surrounded by a different set of sense objects in the form of a new body and other things around you. So it may appear to, react somewhat differently, but it's actually the same. It's just like a person, when you're placed in one situation, you react differently to another, isn't it? If you're thrown into the ocean, you'll react a little differently to if you're thrown into the air or thrown into the ground. You're the same person, but you react differently to the circumstance. Or if you're in the association of different types of people, you're going to react differently, right? Probably. You're not a stone. Stones, well, they kind of react differently in a sense. They sink or they stay, but they don't have any independence. They're more or less, no choice. But a living entity does. Even an animal responds differently in different association, isn't it? If you put an animal in the corner, the animal's going to really try to defend itself. And it will naturally try to bite. It's only natural. Otherwise it may not. Depends on the individual. But circumstances do have their effect on dictating the response. But the person behind it is the same, just responding differently to different circumstances. So similarly, the living entity is the same, but because when born into a child, baby or whatever, it may react somewhat differently to its previous life. Of course, it's a baby, so it's not yet developed intellectually. But it has the same basic tendencies. The karma is yet to manifest in various ways, only a certain degree is manifesting. Just a matter of time, and the same soul, with the different means of perception. So it's only perceiving, the soul is only perceiving whatever it can in that particular conditioning. But the tendencies are the same, and the material energy arranges it in such a way that in due course of time, due to your tendencies and your karmas, one will find oneself in a particular situation to play out your karma and facilitate your tendencies, no matter what they are. And this is pretty much not accepted, or certainly not understood, and generally not accepted. And even we may not accept it. Therefore, people blame everything that happens to us in our childhood for any problem we're having now, practically speaking, which is a total fallacy. It's not total fallacy. It is another form of association which molds our tendencies and creates karma. And that's there on all sides, not just me, but the person doing this to me and me to him and this and them, her, him, her, whatever. It's a perpetuation of the same cycle of karma. That's all. And it's a waste of time blaming people for our position. Not only a waste of time, but it entangles us further in karma and material life. There's no escape. We have to take responsibility. So Vedic culture is taking responsibility. And how do we take responsibility? That's what the scriptures are there for. They're there to guide us so that we can get out of this perpetual cycle. So in the world today, without that guidance, of course some people justify their activities, but on so-called directives. But unfortunately, scriptures also have to be understood, time, place, and circumstance, where they're, relevant. Relevance is, in one sense, more important than knowledge. Knowing how to apply knowledge according to time, place, and circumstance. And our tendency is, in aspiring devotees, also we have the same basic shortcoming. Maybe not on such a general basis as some, but still it's there. We look for justification for our own selfish perspectives, finding shlokas and quotes and this and that, and we spend our time and although there's some connection there, it's not a mood of surrender. It's a mood of utilization for a perverted purpose of some kind or another. Something's there, but it's not pure and it's not the real purpose of Scripture to guide us and change our perception. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj said, a famous quotation, "The one who thinks they can reform this world is in need of reform."
Oh my God. That's heavy.
And that applies to ourselves as well. In other words, we think we can reform others, but if we don't reform ourselves, then we're just like a barking dog almost. Maybe not quite that bad, but something along those lines. Reform, he said, everything is happening completely under the direction of the Supreme Lord. You can't change things but by the width of one hair in this world. Anyone who appears to be a reformer is simply an instrument in the hands of the Lord and his energies. Be you a Hitler, be you a Gandhi, be you what you may be, simply an instrument in what has to happen according to karma and desire. So what's the point of all this? Is meant for reform. And he says the only reform which is required is a reform of our own perception. Nothing else. The world is perfect as it is. It's just the way we see it that needs to change. And we're seeing it with me in the center all the time. What I like, how I do. And this, that, me. Isn't it? Conditioned life. It's like that. That's why we're here. We want to see ourselves in the center, so we have to be in the material world, because in the spiritual world, unless you want to be merged into the Brahmajyoti, you can do that if you like. It's kind of like being stuck in a big womb, very big one, quite a nice one, bright one. But it's, you're alone, and you're really in the center. But when we talk of the spiritual world, maybe we're going a little bit beyond that to Vaikuntha, etc. You cannot see yourself in the center. Spiritual world means seeing Krishna in the center, and everything in relationship with Krishna. So scriptures are there to try to teach us to see everything in relationship with Krishna. That's all. Change your perception. And that includes numerous activities for different persons in different conditioned states, different directives for different persons, rules and regulations, and you name it. The list goes on. But the ultimate purpose is to see everything in relationship with Krishna. Krishna conscious. That's the goal. It may not appear to be in the beginning stages, but that should be the goal. Not just to be, what would we say? I don't want to use the words, I might get in trouble. But, our group conscious. Our religion conscious. And every other religion, down with it. I don't put you in trouble, but it can sometimes be like that. It doesn't always have to be, but it's quite often like that. That also applies in the association of Vaishnavas sometimes. My guru, your guru. Our group, your group. You're bad, we're good. This sometimes creeps in. But creep in, it's already there. It sometimes comes out. It's already there, it comes out. But a pure devotee, they see things differently, and they see everything in relationship with Krishna and try to help out others to see things in relationship with Krishna. Kamsa was not like that. Kamsa was seeing everything in relationship to himself, and everything in the world should be arranged to fulfill my desire. We all have a little bit of that mentality, don't we? A little bit. Maybe a little bit or a little bit more than a little bit, but we have it somewhere along the line. And we have to look at our own hearts, really, how we react to situations, how we see others who don't fit me, etc., etc. So there's the other side of it, of course, is the reform side. So he said the only way that we can do that to change our perception, and it's very simple. It's the same thing Lord Chaitanya has said. He said, you have to expose yourself to the transcendental sound vibration of the holy name. Krishna will change our perception. If we as our perception develops according to association with the modes of nature and living entities under the modes of nature, we develop certain concepts, likes and dislikes, philosophies, and so on, based upon association. So by associating with Krishna in the form of the holy name, in the form of Shastra, bona fide Shastras that is, one can gradually, perception can change. And you can get released from the duality of material illusion. And not disturbed. As we know, a wise man is not disturbed by happiness and distress, a realized soul. By victory and defeat. Everything that's going on, he sees it in relation with Krishna. But that doesn't mean, as we said, that they're callous. Because they know that other people are not in that situation. They're in ignorance. And they're suffering as a consequence. So the real welfare work is to try to deliver other living entities from ignorance. It's not just about... That may go on, and it's not that it shouldn't. Prabhupada said that we should also... Devotee is naturally compassionate for the physical suffering of others too. It's natural. Because they're in ignorance. They don't know what they're doing. They're driven by their false perception, their false concepts. As a result of, what it may be, you could take it back being envious of God, but still a devotee does everything they can to help others. And the primary thing to help others is, of course, to give knowledge, relevant knowledge. No point giving probably, even to a starving person. You can hardly preach. They're only thinking of their bellies. I mean, I don't mean, you know what I mean. They're starving. They have to be fed. That's why Prabhupada was so strong on food for life, for instance. Nobody within 10 miles of a Krishna temple should go hungry. I mean, what can we do? But that's the mood of a pure devotee. Prabhupada cried when he saw children begging or groveling in the garbage for food, along with the dogs in Mayapur, trying to get some scraps to eat. This must not happen. Why? Obviously they're children of God, no matter what their karma, their conditioning is, their position is. A devotee cannot tolerate the suffering. It's a pain, paradukkha dukkhi. The only suffering of a devotee is the suffering of others. So there's other sides to it. But we can only, it's like if there's a battle, a war, whatever. The doctor, he wants to cure everyone, but he cannot. He has to do what he can do, not what he cannot do. But he feels for everyone. Even on the other side on the enemy's side, he doesn't like to see. He would cure them too if he could. This is a magnanimous person. Doesn't just say, oh, I don't like them, I only like this. No. That means he hasn't understood anything spiritual at all. Still judging on material considerations. But those who are on that platform, what can you say? They're doing something. But the real charity or the real welfare work is to try to help others, whatever it entails. It may start just prasadam, hearing the holy name, ultimately coming to that point of realizing we're not this. But how can we untie someone else if we're bound up? If we're still diseased, how can we really help anyone else? Doctor, we say in English, physician means doctor. Heal thyself. Doctor. Hare Krishna, welcome to New Mayapur. Panchakalpatrubhyas cha kripa sindhubhya vacchavam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. I assume your name is Kanai Krishna Prabhu? Welcome. Thank you for coming, Prabhu.
Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna. Please bring a cushion for Kanai Krishna or a chair. Do you need a chair or a cushion? Cushion's okay. For the next few days, Kanai Krishna Prabhu will be with us, and I'll just introduce you since nobody here probably knows you before. I don't think we've met either. I can't remember seeing you. Maybe we've seen. Please take the cushion.
I'm sorry to disturb the class.
You're sorry to disturb it. You saved the devotees from disturbance by your presence. A break from the disturbance, right? Krishna Prabhu is a member of our Shastric Advisory Committee, which is a committee formed by the GBC to, the GBC, obviously they're very advanced devotees, but, there are certain things that have to be researched very carefully through Shastra and for different evidences and certain cases in the past. It takes a lot of research to present papers and presentations to help make decisions for the welfare of all. So he's a member of that committee which studies Shastras, and together they work to try to come to a presentation which will be beneficial for all, not just now, but ongoing, so to speak. Very important service to render in our society. So, Krishna willing, he'll be with us. Unfortunately, I won't be with you. We are just getting ready for the Prabhupada book marathon, and devotees are heading off, and some have already gone to Paris for the book marathon and other places. So I have to beg your forgiveness for not being present.
I'll be able to meet you in Paris also.
When are you coming to Paris?
Friday evening.
And how long are you staying?
Just till Sunday.
Pardon?
Till Sunday.
Till Sunday. Okay. So Krishna willing, we'll see you in Paris. Please take advantage. We have heard from our dear Madhavendra Puri Prabhu that he looks to you as his Bhagavatam Guru. You won't feel like that, I know, but he feels like that. And I have no comment other than that, but I'm sure that the devotees will benefit very much from your association. So we do suggest, and you can inform the other devotees also who are not here today, to, I don't know what your schedule is, I have no idea. Something is there. Tomorrow morning, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday morning, and maybe evenings too, I don't know. Please take advantage of Kanai Krishna Prabhu's association. First time in France, is that right?
Yes, Maharaj.
Have you traveled the world before?
No, first time out of India.
First time out of India, okay. Okay, I want to talk to you about this. I've just written a presentation. It's high time to change the paradigm. Indian devotees come to the Western world, which is nice, but what do they do? What do they do when they come to the Western world? I'm not talking about Indian people in general, I'm talking about preachers. What do?
They give.
They give what?
The knowledge.
They give donation.
Who to?
To the ignorant.
Like you. Okay. That's good. That's not bad. That's good. But that's not enough. That's not enough.
What did they do?
Prabhupada started this movement. I'll just let you know. I mean, it's off the target, but it's related. Prabhupada's done this, what I'm writing about. And I'm going to write it to the leaders. Prabhupada started this movement in India. He wanted Indians to join him. Nobody came forward. Nobody. Why did he want Indians to join him?
It's their culture.
Pardon?
It's their culture. They should
That's fine. They should do. But why? Yes, his instruction is directly there in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Now the instruction is what?
Every person born in India should preach.
Preach where? All over the world. Not just in India. Prabhupada wanted young men to join him to take them all over the world to preach. Preach to who?
Western people.
Obviously, there are no Indian devotees anywhere outside of India. So who are they going to preach to? There is no one else. And that was the failing of the Gaudiya Math. They had the same instruction. They did nothing in England, I know. We went to their mat. One old 80-year-old lady who didn't let us in the door. That was all it was. That was the mat. Remainder of it, 20, 30 years later. It didn't happen. But that is the order of Lord Chaitanya. You don't come to the West to preach to the devotees, to preach to the Indian community. You get out there and start centers. You get out there on the street with you in the freezing cold, as Prabhupada did. That's preaching. That's what's required. That has to be taught. Teach. You have to learn how to preach to uncivilized people. You understand the point? And now I'm not getting on your case by any, don't get me wrong. But you happen to have walked in just at that moment, and I just wrote this yesterday. There's a devotee. Why did I write it? Well, I'll tell you, I've been thinking about it. I wrote about it 20 years ago, but it came up again yesterday. One devotee desperately wants to come to the West, to temple management. He wants to come to preach to Westerners. They're doing everything they can to stop him coming. There's only about 500,000 devotees in India. And you come to a place like France, how? If we can get one French preacher, it's like an annual celebration. You know, you don't know what it's like. And then devotees come to give seminars to devotees, and they complain if there's not enough devotees. And then, they come and preach to the congregation. Nice, it's all good, but it's not enough. It's not enough. That's not what Prabhupada wanted. I'm convinced. He wanted his godbrothers to come and join him in New York and walk the streets of New York with no money. Not that he wanted that, but that's what it was like. Prabhupada had nothing. He knew nobody. He didn't know the Western culture. Completely out of place. But alone, he ignited. And another thing I'd like to mention is that when Prabhupada would come to any temple in the West, in London, every time Prabhupada would come to London, he took at least 4 of our devotees away with him to go to India. Every time he would take 4 of our brahmacharis to India. Why? Because there was nothing going on in India. The whole temples in India were just Western devotees. There were no Indian devotees. The preaching was entirely done by Westerners. He went, you get the point. So now it's the turn of the Indian devotees to do the payback, so to speak. All the money is in India too, by the way. Most of it. That is a fact. That is not just a philosophy, it's a fact, isn't it? That, the world's changed, the dynamics have changed. There are tens of thousands of wonderful devotees in India now. They're really paka. I mean, they are really civilized. Look at us, Have a care. Go 1 minute without picking my nose. It's a breakthrough, Washing, everything. We're brought up in a different culture, if you want to call it that. It's just different. Prabhupada was. I'm absolutely convinced he wanted that. Of course, there are some who are trying to break. I know, for instance, let's take one example, and I wish I had more time. I haven't even touched the topic I wanted to talk about. You ruined the class. You hijacked us. I'm going to hijack your class when I see you next time. Finish off my class. Okay? What to do? Yeah, there's one example I'd like to give. I mean, it's probably going to be a controversial example as well as the other controversial things I've said. But a controversial point in the sense that there's a city in America. I don't know if you're going to... Are you going to America? No. There's a city in America called Atlanta. Now, yesterday, one of our topmost book distributors named, Charadeshna Prabhu left his body. He was the biggest book distributor in maybe 75 or something in the world. Charadeshna. You may not know him. Charadeshna. He was the first devotee to do over 200 Mahabig books in one day. In the airport, he did 210. And they're harassed them like anything in the airport in those days. But he did 210. That was like a big breakthrough in book distribution. So he left his body. But there in Atlanta, it's a big city. But there are two temples. One of the temples there, a traditional ISKCON temple. The other one is started by Bhakti-Vikas Swami's disciples. And as you may have heard of a devotee named Mahotsaha. Now he's from your neck of the woods, as we say in the outback. You don't know any of these terms. It means he's from a similar part of the world that you're from. You're from South India, I take it, are you?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Yes, Maharashtra.
Maharashtra. So on the way towards South India. Well, he's from Tamil Nadu, as far as I know. But, he's a distributor. The marathon's just coming up. On some days, he distributes, on the street, 54 Bhagavatam sets. On the street. Can you believe it? It's almost unreal, isn't it? And not only that, but he'll distribute 2,000 other Maha big books on top of it in one day. It's just unbelievable. He did 5,000 about 5,000 Maha big books in one day on Sankirtan. Can you believe it? And he's from Tamil Nadu, preaching in, there's a lot of Indians there as well, I must admit. But a lot of the books do go to Indians, but a lot of them go to black people and white-skinned people. And they started an ashram, and all the devotees there, almost all of them are black and white-skinned. And they're going out distributing books. And the head of that is also from Tamil Nadu, Vishnu Chitta. They're both from India, and they're both preaching in, Atlanta's a really black belt area of America. And they're preaching on the streets there. You get the point? It's a bit of a revolution approach, but that's what they're doing. And it can be done. We're not talking about Indians born in the West. We're talking of Indians born in India. Both things are good. It's time for that change to take place. You're so educated, you're so qualified, you're empowered and cultured, knowledgeable. It's a great opportunity. Think about it. Please if you take nothing away from here, they won't give you any money if you're looking for money. But at least you can take that much away. We'll be asking you for money. We're beggars here. We're a bunch of beggars. Yeah, anyway. What to do? No, don't worry, they'll look after you. I hope somebody's going to feed you while you're here. Has anyone told you how to eat while you're here? No? There's a potato field. Is there any potatoes left in the field down there?
You have to search.
You have to search for them. You give him a fork or something. You can dig some potatoes, and there's some wood over there. You can light a fire and boil some potatoes, okay? No, there will be prasadam in a few minutes, don't worry. And we hope you have a real nice stay here in New Mayapur. Come back again when there's more devotees. You've come at almost the quietest time of the year, practically, in number of devotees, because the marathon's just about to begin. There's about 8 devotees away right now in India or somewhere else. They're not back yet. And, it's a quiet time. But anyway, we hope the devotees will come from the village and this and that to hear you. So, okay, I would like to carry on, but the marathon's about to begin. In most places, they're beginning in Europe. Most places are beginning this week. We had a big session last night with the European Sankirtan devotees. And quotas are there, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to read it now. I was going to read some fantastic quotes from Prabhupada, but time doesn't allow. Yes, and we're starting next week on the 28th, the marathon. 28th. That's the last day of Kartik is the 27th, so the next day we start our marathon. It's Tuesday, next week. So if anyone wants, wherever you are, wherever you go, Lord Chaitanya said you didn't have to leave your home. You can stay in this area of the country. But wherever we go, he said, try to tell others about Yaradeki Tarakara Krishna Upadesha Maragara Guru Tarahana Idesh. Try to speak to others about Krishna consciousness. Now we may not know much, but at least we can give them a magazine or a book or some prasadam or something. Something to help them on their spiritual path. It may be in the superette, it may be in the laundrette, it may be in the pub. Wherever you go, I don't know where you go in Nikkei. Some devotees, they go to the pub. They can also distribute books in the pub. You know what a pub is? In French, you call it pub? What do you call it? Bar. Bar. In the bar, in the cafe bar. There's at least one, if not more. I'm surprised there's only one. Is there more than one in Nikkei?
Yeah, there's 2.
Liquor house?
3. There's 3.
Oh, you know them all. You know them all very well. So tell everyone which is the best. Tell everyone which is the best one, so they know which one to go to. And even there, I mean, some devotees, like
some people
having some difficulties out there, are some. Wherever you go, I mean, I know one devotee who became a devotee like that. His name was Kishori. Very nice devotee from America. That's where he got his book. He got his book from a devotee who was in a pub drinking. He was an ex-devotee, he'd fallen away completely, but he still had a love for Krishna consciousness. He said, hey, you should take this book and read it. And he gave him a book from Prabhupada's book in the pub. They were drinking together. And one of them, the other one became a full-time devotee, So everyone can preach, and if he does, no one's disqualified. No one. You don't kind of like put people like, you're not qualified. Everyone's qualified to preach. They may not be able to speak, but at least they can pass something on. And we can all try to do that. Every one of us. You've got friends, families, whatever. Christmas is coming. Time for giving, right? Is it still like that? I think it's more like time for getting now. People are they're for getting, and they're also trying to get for getting. So they want presents, they want money, they want sense enjoyment. But traditionally it's for giving to others. So greatest gift we can do is to give this knowledge to others, as we said in the beginning. Do what you it doesn't matter, even if it's just one magazine. Try to give something. Something to someone during this month. And together, there's not many of us, but together we might be able to. Last year we distributed 7,000 Bhagavad Gitas. Last year in the marathon, together we did 7,000 here in France. 7,000 Bhagavad Gitas and 115 Bhagavatam sets during the December month. Together with about 10,000 other books, including 3,000 Arabic books. So that last year was our biggest marathon since Bhagavan's time by far and away. More than double of any previous one. We are not expecting, or we're always hoping, but we're not expecting to do as many this year because of various reasons. One, we've almost exhausted all of the outlets for Bhagavatam sets into our congregation and community. That's one thing. Secondly, our Arabic book distributors are not with us this year. One of them is, but the two of them are not. And thirdly, our top male book distributor is not with us this year. Our top, Gaurnataraj. Gaurnataraj and Rivatanandan are staying in India for various reasons, courses, and this thing I said last night. We have so many retreats now, even during December, there are retreats going on in Vrindavan. I call retreat defeat. We don't retreat from the battlefield, we go onto the battlefield. I mean, of course it's going on because Kartik's late, we understand that, but the emphasis is not there very much now. It's like something some people do. Best of luck, great service, do it. But, we introduced all these other things during that month. It would never have been the case during Prabhupada's time. During December, at least in the beginning there was no marathon, but once the marathon started picking up, the whole of ISKCON, which was no congregation practically in those days, so it was a little different, but the whole of ISKCON in terms of temples were completely focused on the marathon from top to bottom. I was mentioning to the devotees last night, even our own GBC was preparing the books for us to go out on Sankirtan. He was packing the books for us to go out. He was very busy, but he would spend hours a day packing books so that the Sankirtan devotees had books to take out, And others were driving around delivering books. No, everybody was engaged. Everyone was on the marathon. If they weren't actually doing books, they were doing a marathon in their own services. Daily worship, cooking, cleaning, whatever, like that, looking after guests. The pujaris in some places were the top book distributors in the world. They didn't leave the temple room. Of course, here you won't be the top book distributor if you don't leave the temple room. But in places later on, not in the 70s, but later on, like in Bombay, for instance, in Jew temple. Also, you could have done that in the manor. But every day, 10,000 people coming to the temple. The pujari was distributing like thousands of books a day in the temple. He would sit next to the donation box. Every time a person put a donation, he'd give them a book according to what they gave. He was distributing thousands a day. Amazing, huh? No matter who you are, you could do something. This is united. Unity. You bring unity. In this marathon, the devotees... Get to work, you lazy man. You're supposed to be working at 9 o'clock. You're late. You'll get sacked if you're not careful. It's so simple in one sense and so complicated in another. And the other amazing thing, and that many of the problems which we have, which, we all have problems, especially in the West, psychological disturbances, we've been, traumatized, whatever you want to call it. The whole world's a trauma, But, one of the solution in many cases, two things can go on. You've got to deal with the reality of your situation. But when we're absorbed in Sankirtan, this is what changes our perception. It changes our feelings about each other. It changes our feelings about ourselves. It has a unique effect of, helping us to realize who we are. And that's really the bottom line problem. We don't know who we are. Identity crisis. Isn't it? Bottom line problem. I think I'm English. I think I'm Christian. I think I'm an atheist. I think I'm a communist. I think I'm right. I think I'm wrong. I think I'm a man. I think I'm a woman. I think I'm gay. I think I'm this. This is the real problem. False identity. And that's Kamsa's problem. And therefore he's willing to kill people just because of that. Change your perception. And this is the Sanktam movement. Cheto Darpana Marjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Davarpanam is to change our perception. Well, Chaitanya doesn't say change your home. He said you stay there. Just change your perception, that's all. Isn't it? Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Davarpanam, because it extinguishes that blazing fire of material ignorance. Cleanses the heart of this false perception. Beautiful. Easier said than done. But anyway, we need these little incentives sometimes to kind of like get going. Get on the move. I was revealing, because no one online was there. One godbrother was there last night. But practically nobody was there in the 70s during the marathons. And literally, we would go 20 hours non-stop on book distribution. It was like a power coming through you. I remember one last day of the marathon, we start in the morning, 6:30, and we go right through till 4 o'clock the next morning. Just with a snack in between. We couldn't even snack. We'd just get a bar of dates and stuff it down as quick as we could and get on with it. And it was freezing cold. It's ice on the floor.
Where was that?
In England, north of England. Everyone. We were in blizzards distributing books. Blizzards. Prabhupada said to you, it's just fun. We were enjoying it. It was ecstatic. It was like another energy there. It wasn't, oh my God, what am I doing here? It's so damn cold and, this is ridiculous. And completely different spirit. What to do? It was empowerment. The devotees were empowered. They were really empowered. Prabhupada said, you are in samadhi. He wrote that. He said, no normal person can do this. He was talking to the devotees in general. He said, you are in samadhi. This is samadhi, he said. This is not on the material platform. Because we're not exactly on that level. You get that, that little taste sometimes, that little experience sometimes. So like Narada Muni got that little glimpse of the beauty of Krishna, and he was hankering after it. Hankering after it. And Parikshit Maharaj the same in the womb. And so you get that taste, and it's like something special. Okay, we got to go ready for the marathon. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Oh, glorious to all of you. Pujaris, cooks, cleaners, gardeners, farmers, whatever you're doing. All glorious to it. Do it for Krishna. Hare Krishna. So, there's some goats down there. There's some goats, and they have not got their Bhagavad Gitas yet. Okay? Oh, you gave them, huh? They ate them. They ate them. They're goats. They eat paper, so they ate the books. Anyway, they must have become purified once they ate them. They got the higher taste. Okay, that's good.
You got me enthused now.
Pardon?
I want to do a little marathon somewhere. I want to do a little marathon somewhere.
Go for it.
To go with some girls.
Yeah.
And the issue with the